Okay, quick update for the market situation. So we'll have a look at the indices, commodities, currencies, as well as a few stocks. As always, if you want to follow us on the group, you can. It's Mondays and Thursdays. We do education. Well, we do weekly updates as well as educational videos every now and then. We've also got a private Twitter feed going for the last couple of months for those actively day trading, SPOOs or the SPY. Obviously, that's during market hours between the hours of 9:30 Eastern till around 4 p.m. Eastern. If I see any good sort of moves, I tend to update on the private Twitter feed. It's a monthly subscription. Just go through here, go through PayPal, and for those in the UK and the EU, I absorb the VAT from your perspective. If you want to pay in crypto, just give me an email. I'm taking payments up until April the 30th. Shopify store, we're doing a discount code for the weekend, so it's F50, that's F50, that's 50% off everything as long as 2 or more items are purchased, and it does include, just for the next 3 days or so, the new professional set of videos which I've done where I talk about the economy, all the books with the commentary, advanced day trading indicators, which has proved to be very popular, and advanced trading psychology. And also through here, if you want to book a consultation, you can go through here. And if you want me to ever have a look at any stocks of your particular choice and you don't want to join the group, you can always have a look at this here, and I'm happy to cover pretty much any stock or any coin. As a deal for the next week or so, I can cover 2 stocks for the price which is quoted there, 2 stocks or 2 coins. So usually I turn that around within 72 hours. I just send you a Google Drive link. So and yeah, if you want to book a consultation, that's there as well. I'm happy to discuss anything, if there's anything I can help with. So portfolio management, educational videos, TA, general chit chat about crypto or the general stock market, and finally personal reading list and trading setup. Just have a look through here. If you're going to buy anything off Amazon, go through these links. I would appreciate that. Get a small kickback. Okay, so the Dow Jones, as per my video going way back over a year ago now, I believe that was December the 7th 2017, Dixie to 60 and Dow Jones to 40,000. So the count has always been Dow Jones to 40,000. Okay, the actual top which I've calculated recently is 43,209, and ultimately this stock market is going to go higher. Right now we're sitting at 23,000, well 25,000 something, so we've got at least another 15,000 points on the Dow to go, and this is the ultimate count right here, where this is all a 1 2 3 4 5 just to make a 3 expanded flat possibly, or just a straight WXY down. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Whatever's gone on last year, at the end of last year, was just the primary wave 4, and now we're setting the stage to go higher. And obviously a lot of stocks have already started moving. The SPOOs, the count I've made is around 4,000, I believe. Could go a little bit higher, but somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 for the S&P. Now, short term, looking at the Dow, obviously we have noticed a bit of a pullback the last couple of days, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get some sort of pullback here, because you can clearly count 1 2 1 2 3 4 5. That's probably a wave 4 for 3, so probably a wave 3 ended here, wave 4, and we're probably making our wave 5 now. We're getting very close to a bit of a rollover here. As you can see, there's some divergence with the RSI on the 4 hour, and there's a bit of a sell-off going on here, as you can see towards the end of the day, the last couple of trading days. Also the VIX is catching a bid, and gold as well, and we'll get on to gold in a minute. But ultimately, regardless of what happens over the next few weeks, it's going to correct in a 3-wave correction. Let's just assume that the top is very close, the short-term top. Ultimately, this market is very bullish, and any 3-wave correction, whether it corrects to the 23.6, 38.2, the 50, any 3-wave pullback is to be bought, because we are going to go to new highs, and this time next year almost certainly we will be at new highs, if not before the end of this year. And that's just the way stock markets move. Now, if we have a look in 1998, we got something very, very similar prior to the blow off top, sort of in the tech bubble. We got something very similar here. So this is September 98, we just went straight up. There were no major pullbacks there. And if we have a look at Bitcoin, I was having a consultation actually on Monday morning with a chap, and we discussed and we said, look, you know, what the Dow Jones is doing is pretty much what Bitcoin did when it was at 3,000, and Bitcoin started its parabolic wave 5 around about here. Yeah, that was the wave 5. Yeah, fine, we got a bit of a pullback here, but this was a very shallow pullback, and then we had that final blow off top. So the Dow Jones is basically doing what Bitcoin did when it was at 3,000 or so. So it's not to say the Dow Jones is going to 6x in terms of price, but what it is saying, the Dow Jones is still going to go higher, and wave 5s are typically very speculative waves. So going back to the Dow Jones, ultimately we are going to go to 40,000, you know, 43,209. That's my count. Any 3-wave pullback is to be bought. But, you know, the market doesn't necessarily give everyone a chance to jump back in. I mean, everyone's hoping for a very deep correction all the way back down to 2397. There's a big gap at 2397 on the SPOOs, but that may not happen. So you just got to watch out for that. And it's a common misconception amongst people who analyze the markets that wave 2s have to correct 61.8. They actually don't. Most wave 2s correct 38.2. So be very mindful whenever this market tops out, short term, whatever, be mindful of this 38.2, because it might just stop there. And I can prove that to you, that wave 2s can often correct only 38.2 based on what we had here. To me, that's not a running flat. To me, that's probably a one. I mean, I can appreciate that looks a little bit corrective there, but ultimately to me, that's a wave 2, and this was only a 38.2 pullback from here. So basically, when the trend is very bullish, expect only a short-term retracement. So I'm not going to go into it more than that. Ultimately, any 3-wave correction is to be bought. Like I said, if you want to join the group, we actively you know, trade this market, so you can have a look and see what we're doing. But ultimately the stock market's going to go higher, and that's the S&P, and obviously the VIX is forming a bit of a higher low business going on here, so I wouldn't be surprised if the VIX does some sort of corrective leg. But ultimately, if this market is going to go higher, the VIX is ultimately going to go back into this range, and this is the range which investors are very happy with, this 13 to 11 range, where not much is going on and the volatility is very low, and you can just sit back and swing trade basically. Okay, gold. So very interesting situation on gold here. This is not a topping pattern on gold. This looks like a triangle. This is the third inside week candle on contraction of volume and price, cause and effect. Once again, this is likely to break to the upside next week. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a movement back up to 1340, 1367, and ultimately if gold is going to quote unquote break out here, it's going to probably break out of this descending monthly trend line, which is sitting at 1335, and ultimately this multi-year resistance zone, like I said, at 1365. Ultimately, whatever gold is doing right now over the next couple of months, it's simply a C leg, probably off a larger X wave. Okay, so ultimately the dollar is going to wreak havoc on gold, and ultimately gold is going to break these lows. Gold is definitely going to break these lows some point either this year or next, well, probably even this year, to be honest. The second half of this year, definitely. You can't have the stock market going to make new highs and gold going towards 2000. Just not going to happen. So this is still a corrective sequence, as I've said, you know, many years ago. So but ultimately right now, as a trade, gold looks pretty healthy. Assuming it's not just a large A, B, C, D, E triangle and it's going to break down, but ultimately there's nothing topping about this. This is an inside week candle, that's inside week, and you know, that much contraction of volume and price tells me a break is imminent to the upside. And you can see on JNUG as well, inside week, even if all you did was find inside week candles, obviously the larger the time frame, the larger the move. So three inside candles on a 1 minute chart is nowhere near as effective as 3 inside candles on a weekly chart or a monthly chart, as we saw with Bitcoin. let's just remind people of Bitcoin. I mean, this chart is so fascinating. It's basically telling you what's going to happen to the Dow Jones when it hits 43,000. Inside week, massive break, 6,000, 3,000. There's your trade right there. So there's a lot of money to be made on inside weeks. I'm sure someone could figure out some kind of trading software to find these algorithms. To find these setups. So if you do, just give me an email. But yeah, JNO I can see going to 12.67, 13.73. It's very hard to analyze a triple leverage ETF, but ultimately, if you choose your entries well, you can make a lot of money on there, on these sort of trades. Silver, once again, it's probably going to follow gold. Ultimately, silver is going to go lower. It's just making an X wave, in my opinion. So a C wave off a larger X wave. Ultimately, when all is said and done, and we'll get onto in the dollar, we'll get onto the dollar in a minute. Ultimately, silver could easily go to $11.2, maybe even test these lows at 8.76. Obviously, from a fundamental perspective, silver can't get too low, but as we found out with Bitcoin, fundamentals and price don't necessarily correlate. So ultimately, silver is going to go lower. So that big move is coming. So the time to buy physical silver is still not yet, but it is coming, because the gold and silver bear market has been going on for nearly, pushing on to 7-8 years now. So it's definitely close to a multi-year bottom in gold and silver, but still there's time to wait with that. So ultimately, silver and gold do look bullish, but in a couple of months time, if silver hits 17, maybe even $18, then it's a very good short. Same with gold as well, because the dollar is going to cause havoc. Now let's go on to that dollar. So ultimately, as per one of my calls, once again going to here, the dollar is going to collapse to 60. That day is coming, but it's not yet. This was a very long-term target. One of my very, very first videos, which quote unquote put me on the map. So ultimately, dollar is going to end up here at 65. But before that happens, there's going to be a massive squeeze, short squeeze on the dollar here, and the dollar is going to go higher. I mean, I've got targets here. Let's assume this Wyckoff reaccumulation WXY pattern is complete. It may make one newer low, but ultimately, let's just assume dollar has either bottomed out here short term, or it's very close to a low. So either the Y wave is in, or it's here. Ultimately, dollar's going to go, first target is between 104, 105, followed by 108, 109. And then if we look at this descending trend line going all the way back to when the index was first formed back in 1985. I mean, I'm sure the index was around before then. TVC. I'm sure the index was around. Yeah, 1968. Okay, fine. I mean, I'm going off this. Okay, fine. I mean, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I mean, there's still a descending line there, isn't there? Yeah. So ultimately, this descending line it might even hit that, and that's coming in at 111 basically. Maybe even tag these highs. So ultimately, dollar has got a long way to go in terms of going higher before we get that massive movement down. So yeah, still long dollar, and obviously euro is going to have the opposite. I mean, euro eventually, when all is said and done, I can see it going to 1.05 and ultimately parity. There's a lot of support here for the euro to go to parity here. So between, basically parity with the dollar. Cable, there's a chance cable may have bottomed, as I said on my tweet going back a couple of months prior to that Brexit vote. If cable has bottomed out here, then ultimately 1.40 is your target, followed by 1.50. So dollar is going to cause havoc, but probably not as much on cable as it is on the euro, simply because the euro makes such a large weighting. Okay, and so we've covered the indices. We've covered gold, silver, dollar index. We'll also cover some stocks which I'm liking. So two which have been mentioned in the group. I mean, Snap has made a really good move. So this is the advantage of being in the group. You can get in on these trades well before they happen. I mean, it's up 87%, whereas the Dow Jones is only up 18%. So it's really a stock pickers market right now. I think, like I said, short term, if the Dow Jones does get a three-wave correction, maybe Snap will come back to fill this gap. But any three-wave correction on any decent stock like Snap, um, once again, Snap is a tech stock, so you've got to be careful here. But any three-wave pullback is to be bought and will be bought. And ultimately, Snap, I've got a target off, well, basically here. So first target has been hit. Next target, 10.55, 11.76, 12.95, 14.79, 19.03, and there's a gap here sitting at 22.49. But if you've bought in Snap right at the lows here, like many of us in the group, you've pretty much bought the lows. So you just add to your position, you add to your winners, basically. But I think Snap is very good. And General Electric, obviously, I've been talking about this stock for quite some time. Once again, it's been massively sold off here. They've had a new management team, $100 billion in revenue. I'm not going to go through the fundamentals. Short term, like I said, the Dow Jones might be making a bit of a pullback. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back down here to fill this gap. Most other gaps on the way up have been filled. That one's been filled. Any three-wave pullback will get bought up, and ultimately GE is going to go to 12.38, but ultimately the real target here is between 13.41 and 13.82. Now if that breaks to the upside, GE, when all is said and done, by the time the Dow hits 40k over the next few years, GE could easily get to $30.51. Okay, so this stock market, you were 6 weeks in to a massive wave 5, yeah? So any three-wave correction is to be bought. Obviously, there's a lot of people who have been terrified by the movement down in December, but, that's just the way stock markets move. You kind of have to buy into that fear, basically. I think the FANG trade, I'm not really interested, so I've taken it all off. Things like Snap are very risky, but if you look at things like Facebook, I think money has rotated out of Facebook, and no one really cares about what Facebook is going to do right now, to be honest. This massive gap, this biggest stock move of all time, when $120 billion of revenue came out, that's a lot of supply there. There's a massive supply zone there in Facebook, and I think a lot of people are probably rotating out of tech. That money must have gone somewhere, right? And it's obviously gone into other sectors, so stock pickers market. Okay, and I think that's everything I wanted to cover, really. So yeah, and just finally with crypto, ultimately we are going to go lower. Like I said, the other account I was thinking about the other day, simply because this has taken so long now, this flag pattern, it's just going on for way too long. It can still be an ABC going up towards 4.1k, but the other count would just be a very simple triangle sequence, basically, where this is one side of the triangle, this is the other side of the triangle, and like we said, the US dollar, if it continues to charge higher to 97, 98, 99 and higher, ultimately there has to be one more move down in Bitcoin, basically. So if that is just the triangle, then ultimately we are going to get that movement back down. So as I've been saying since 20,000, Bitcoin is still in a bear market. My target has been 2,000 from a very long time ago. They keep on taking that video down off YouTube, but I've got a few others here which were made ages ago, 2496, regardless of the one that they keep on taking down. But we are going to go lower, and it's 2,000, and if the panic sets in, we could go even lower. But let's assess things as we go down. But there is one more big shakeout in Bitcoin coming before people are going to get very, very interested with what is happening with Bitcoin, because as we've seen with JPM coin, they held the patents for that in 1999, so it kind of proves that technology is kept back from the masses by 20 years. I wouldn't be surprised if AI technology has been developed. Well, I know it has. It's been developed well over 10 years ago, five years ago, and a lot of this technology just tends to lag, basically, and So the future is very, very interesting. I mean, one day dollar is not going to be around. So very exciting times in the blockchain area. But once again, that's the hype, that's the fundamentals, but price can do something completely different. But there's one more push down here before a lot of the large institutions are going to start accumulating big time. And we're going to start accumulating with them. Okay, finally, oil. So basically, oil is, I mean, the long and short of it is that basically from 2016, this is all a W, WXYX, and a larger Y. Okay, now the question is this an A wave? As in, is all that just a massive A wave? Is this just a B wave to sort of $58, and then are we going to get that massive move down in oil? Or is this just an X wave, meaning this WXY is actually part of a larger WXY or ABC? So let's just say it's part of a larger ABC. So all of this could just have been an A, that could just be a straight rip down B or X wave, and now oil is going to do this. Okay, so that could very well be the count. And certainly if you have a look at the move from 26th of December, this certainly does have a 5-wave look to it. Okay, this is either a wave 1 or a wave A. Let's just say it's a wave A. You can very clearly count 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 3 running flat 4, and now it's going to make a 5. So I wouldn't be surprised if oil gets to around 58 or something, or tops out here pretty soon. Then it makes a B wave, let's just say, I don't know, to sort of $50 or so, nice round number, and then we get that C leg. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens to oil. Okay, so, and then that would then basically do this. So let's just move all that over, and then that would then complete, well then that would be a WXY then, won't it? So that would all be the W, the X, and the Y. So that would be the larger count basically. So let's just make that. So the larger count is possibly a WXY to form a W, for which the X itself was a very complicated WXY. So oil doesn't like ABCs. Oil loves 3-wave impulsive and corrective moves. So WXY to make a W. This is all some sort of X. We've shot up here in an A, probably come down in a B, and then we're going to go up in a C. So ultimately oil will go up a little bit more, come down, then go back up again. That's my take with oil. Obviously the alternate count is we have actually topped out here on 76, and this is just a larger degree, and it is actually topped out, and that is actually the larger degree count, and this is just some sort of counter trend move to a larger A wave coming down basically. So maybe it has actually topped out. That's just the A, that's the B, then we're going to do this. So there are 2 counts, that would be a slightly larger count. So I'm hoping that makes sense. There are 2 counts with oil. I suppose it doesn't really matter what count is more important long term, because short term, ultimately, both of the counts, regardless of which one you say, both of the counts say oil's going to top out here pretty soon, then it's going to come back down to around $50 or something, then it's probably going to go up. So that's the great thing about Elliott wave. You can have 2 counts, but often both those counts point to the same directional bias. Okay, but ultimately that's my count. I probably favor the first one of those 2 counts. This is just a larger W, that's an X, and then that's a Y. But let's see. I mean, you know, the dollar could cause havoc on oil, so we don't know. And because euro and oil follow in similar sort of moves, you know, we don't really know what's going to happen here. Gold might move higher with the dollar, but for gold, oil, and dollar to all move up, we'll have to wait and see. So TBC on oil, to be calculated or to be decided. But let's just see what kind of pullback do we get on oil. Is it impulsive or is it corrective? And yeah, that's oil. Okay, so I'll wrap it up there. So hopefully everyone has found that useful. Like I said, follow me on my Twitter feed at Nazir Jones 007. Like I said, I'm doing a discount code only for the next 3 days. So next 72 hours is F50. So it's not FF, it's just F50. And that includes all of the professional series of videos. So if you guys are interested, as long as you buy 2 or more, it's really good value for money. I mean, none of this top rated stuff. This is the real deal, as you guys know from my YouTube channel, of the calls that I've made. And yes, if you want to book a consultation, you can. And also, if you want me to have a look at any stock or any coin, I'm happy to cover either 2 coins or 2 stocks, or 1 coin and 1 stock for the price quoted for the next week or so, and I can rotate that around within 72 hours. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Good luck to whatever you're doing, and I'll catch you guys soon.